Okay, I'm very excited to have on the Goldstein on Gelt show New York Times best-selling author Kabir Sehgal, who wrote a fascinating book called Coined, The Rich Life of Money and How Its History Has Shaped Us. Kabir, I know a lot of people are looking to collect a lot of money, but is it true that the history of money really has changed the way society works?
Doug, it's great to be here. Yes, in fact, money and human experience is interlinked because really when you boil it down, money gives us the calories that we need to survive. What I mean by that is when I started researching for my book, Coined, I went to the Galapagos Islands to look at how money was created. And I know that might seem a little bizarre, but remember, that's where Charles Darwin was inspired to come up with this theory of evolution by natural selection. And across the Galapagos, I saw how different organisms trade or how they exchange energy. And really the first currency of the natural world is energy. And the first types of currencies that were invented in human history were, things that we could eat, salt and meat and barley and things that could be traded. And then eventually when the brain expanded, we started to think tactically about how we could save the money, how we could hoard the money. So money fundamentally, I define it as a symbol of value. And anything that can be used as a symbol of value can be used as money. And that's true for the last thousands of years of human history. And no matter what money becomes, it'll always be a symbol of value and it'll always shape the human experience because we need it to survive. We need it to obtain the calories that we need to survive and live.
I love that definition, the calories is what we need. It's interesting you're talking about as a symbol because in my day job as a financial advisor, I deal with things like stocks and bonds. And, when you try to explain this to people, like especially a stock, you say, well, you're going to own a share of a company. And if the company does well, the stock is going to go up in value. And it's often funny when I explain it to kids, but I know the grown-ups are thinking this too. They're like, what do you mean I don't own the company? It's a symbolic feeling. It seems to me that there really is no such thing as money unless they're the gold bugs who always say that's real money. Is that true?
Well, there really is no such thing as real money. Sorry to put it that way, but Milton Friedman probably said it best. He said that whatever society agrees to be money shall be money. And meaning that whether it's gold or whether it's paper money, the society has to believe that that's what money. That's what the confidence comes in money. Like there is no intrinsic value to the US dollar. And I would even say for gold, it's like there is no really purpose of gold other than an ornamentation. Warren Buffett puts it kind of humorously that we dig up holes in Africa and mine the gold, and then we put the gold into other holes in our vaults. So we just move from one hole to the other.
And then we pay people to guard it, right?
Yeah, we pay people to guard it. So money is really a confidence game that we need to have conviction in our institutions and the institutions that back it. And that's what's interesting about it, that it really made us human and it made us modern. And it's something that we all have to sort of agree upon. And then we have seen, if you look at the Roman Empire or in ancient Greece, when the society comes into question, the currency comes into question. That's when you have a monetary crisis or an economic crisis. You look what's happening in Europe right now. The euro has been under duress during the time when the institutions have been under duress. So right now, you could say that money trades as a barometer on the underlying currencies that issue it.
Well, what if there is no institution behind it, like Bitcoin, where it's just kind of, well, you can define it for us, then tell us if there is an institution behind it in which we could be confident.
Well, Mayer Rothschild, the great patron and the patron saint, if you will, and the founder of the Rothschild dynasty, to paraphrase a quote of his, he says, I don't care who makes the rules as long as I make the money, or I control who makes the money, So it's a thing where I've looked at the 5,000 years of human history as it relates to money. And the one thing I found is that the government always wants to be in charge of making money. And if there's ever a threat, the government will then usurp that, will take over and say, no, actually, we're going to be in charge of making the money. These side currencies are not going to function as currency. So Bitcoin is interesting because Bitcoin's not really, it is a currency, but it's not a currency. And what do I mean by that? I don't foresee that you'll be going to Starbucks and buying your cappuccino or frappuccino with a Bitcoin anytime soon. It just doesn't make any sense to the end customer because it doesn't save the customer that much more money. Because Bitcoin is really where Bitcoin makes a lot more sense is in its use as a file transfer protocol. And let me give you an example. So let's say, for example, I wanted to sell you my car and I wanted to trade you that car. The key to open the car was on my mobile phone. Well, using the Bitcoin blockchain protocol, I don't want to get too technological, I could then transfer you the key to the car on my mobile phone. And I could do a secure transaction without a middle party or a broker in between. And you start to look at this, like if I wanted to send you an MP3 or a PDF, how do I actually send you that file, transfer it to you without retaining a copy for myself? So using the blockchain protocol, you can actually start to transfer things, not to send copies of things. And so what that can now just intermediate middle parties, brokers. Could I sell you a stock without a broker? Could I transfer your deed to a house without a middle party? And so this is where Bitcoin gets interesting, because now it's not so much seen as a currency, it's seen as a file transferring technology. And that's why the computer scientists are so excited about it. There are really two camps. There are the financial community that are all excited about the monetary use of it. I just don't foresee that to be a huge use case in the short run, even long run. But the computer science people are like really excited because, oh, this solves a technological problem, how I actually send the file. And using this technology, that solves for that problem.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Kabir Sehgal, who is the New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Coined, The Rich Life of Money and How Its History Has Shaped Us. Kabir, I'm a little curious about the shaping of us. And in fact, it's interesting how you're talking about Bitcoin and the model that maybe we all think it's a coin or just another currency, but perhaps it's not really, that it's just a technology that's going to allow us to securely move one thing of value from one person to another without a middleman. I guess in the past, the middleman has been the central bank or the government, and they're the ones who guarantee the transaction. You're saying that now there's a way to do it without requiring that big brother to guarantee the transaction. Is that a good description?
That's right. Remember that the central bank or the powers that be aren't going to sort of relinquish power all that easily. In fact, the Federal Reserve is looking into its own cryptocurrency technology. A lot of the big banks, JP Morgan, Bank of America, they are also looking into their own cryptocurrency. Remember how money's invented, especially in America and throughout most of the world. There's an alliance between the central bank and major banks. And so the major banks are sort of allowed to take up or borrow money, essentially, from the federal government. The way the money gets injected into the economy is the banks get to loan out money to their customers. And so in that way, the banks are really responsible in concert with the government of making money and making money flow throughout the government. They really have a monopoly, if you will, the banking sector. The big banks in particular have a monopoly with the government to really print money and let it flow through the economy. This is sort of known as fractional reserve banking. And so anything that comes into threat that challenges this is likely to be monitored and maybe pushed back. And, there are historical examples back in the 12th century in China during the times of Kublai Khan and Marco Polo. You saw instances where there was counterfeit money that was being circulated, and people who counterfeit money were put to death because it called into question the veracity of the traditional money or the government money. And so there's always been a lot of force when it comes to the government saying, hey, it's one of the things that has been a constant threat to governments around the world, just counterfeiters and people coming up with their own monetary system. But it's the one thing that governments also push back on incessantly.
Yeah, I guess that's very important, because if someone can come in and shake the very foundation of the monetary system, it's going to shake the very foundation of the country and therefore the government. So they have a very, very strong interest in keeping it solid and keeping it true, which is why people, I guess, just worry so much about the possibility that someone is going to forge currency. Kabir, it's actually fascinating. And you have so many stories about the history of money. And of course, you've put them into a book. Unfortunately, we are just about out of time. But in the last few seconds, tell us, how can people follow you and follow your work?
Doug, they can find me at my website, www.kabir, KABIR.cc. And you can find all the links to my book, Coined, mentioned there. And I look forward to seeing everyone online.
All right, we will put links to that at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com. Kabir, thanks so much for taking the time.
My pleasure, Doug. Take care.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Check out all of Doug's money ideas at goldsteinongelt.com. Doug specializes in helping people who live outside the United States handle their U.S. investment accounts. If you have a question that you would like answered on the air or off, contact Doug at his website or send him an email to doug@profile-financial.com.